The space station floated silently above the colorful alien planet, its lights twinkling like stars reflected in a river. It was a place where countless species mingled, traded, and displayed their wealth and power. Elegant alien nobles moved with grace, their conversations filled with strange sounds and unfamiliar gestures. Technology hummed in every corner, and towering corridors stretched endlessly, connecting halls lined with bright panels and glowing screens. Yet among all this grandeur and activity, one figure remained almost invisible. The princess of this alien world moved quietly along the corridors, her steps soft and careful. Her robes were simple compared to the ornate outfits worn by the other royals, but they carried a subtle elegance. Her large eyes, shining like liquid silver, observed the world around her with curiosity and caution. Though she was the daughter of the planet's ruling family, she was shy and reserved, preferring the background to the spotlight. While other nobles flaunted their power and charm, she often went unnoticed, as if she were a shadow in a place of light. In the grand hall, a group of diplomats laughed loudly, showing off rare gifts and discussing politics with forceful confidence. The princess paused near the edge, quietly watching the crowd. She kept her hands folded and her gaze low, careful not to attract attention. She had grown used to being ignored. It was safer that way. Conversations passed around her without pause, and no one seemed to notice her presence. Yet she was not unhappy. She found comfort in quiet observation, in learning about others without being noticed. Today, however, something unusual was about to happen. The station had received a new envoy from a distant planet, one not known for political strength but for its people's resilience and curiosity. A human had arrived, a young man with a calm demeanor, moving through the station without arrogance or pretense. His brown eyes scanned the environment carefully, not missing details that others overlooked. He greeted the aliens politely, spoke in clear, respectful tones, and carried himself with a quiet confidence that drew attention in the most subtle ways. As the princess wandered near the observation deck, she saw him for the first time. He was walking slowly, examining the panels and talking softly to a group of engineers. She noticed how the aliens around him responded differently. They respected him, yet none of them treated him with fear or dominance. He seemed genuine. Something about him made the princess curious, something that made her step a little closer than usual, though she tried to remain hidden in the shadows. A soft chime echoed through the corridor. The princess, startled, accidentally knocked her small personal token, a delicate crystal pendant, off her robe. It fell silently to the floor. She froze, hoping no one had seen. The pendant was important to her. It had been passed down through generations, a symbol of her family's wisdom and patience. She bent down slightly, preparing to pick it up, but before she could, the human's hand appeared. He crouched quickly and picked up the crystal. His fingers brushed hers as he handed it back. The princess's eyes widened. She had not expected anyone to notice her, much less offer kindness. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet carrying a warmth she had not felt in a long time. The human smiled, his expression gentle and calm. "It's okay. You shouldn't lose something so beautiful." His voice was soft, not rushed, and full of sincerity. The princess felt a strange flutter in her chest. No one had ever spoken to her like this. She looked into his eyes and saw curiosity and respect, not the usual dismissive glances or overbearing attention she had grown used to. As he stood, he gave her a small nod before moving on. The princess watched him go, her mind racing. She felt a spark of excitement, a desire to know more about this human who treated her as if she mattered. Slowly, she began to follow him at a distance, weaving through the corridors and observing how he interacted with others. She saw how he listened carefully, how he asked questions politely, and how he treated every alien with respect, no matter their size, shape, or rank. The princess felt something she had rarely experienced, curiosity mixed with admiration. She had always studied the world quietly, learning from her observations, but now she wanted to step closer to see more, to understand more. Yet caution remained. She was still shy, still used to staying in the background. She watched silently as he paused at a display showing the planet below, pointing out details about its surface, the cities, and the forests. The princess recognized some of the information. It was common knowledge among her family, yet he noticed things others overlooked. His eyes sparkled with excitement, a reflection of the stars outside the observation window. Suddenly, an alarm rang through the station. Red lights flashed across the walls, and a mechanical voice announced a malfunction in the defense systems. Aliens scattered in confusion, some shouting orders, others running toward safety. The princess froze, unsure what to do. She had never been part of such chaos before. Her hands trembled slightly as she watched people rush past, some pushing others aside in fear. The human, however, moved with purpose. He did not panic. Instead, he carefully navigated toward the control hub, checking panels and analyzing information with calm efficiency. The princess's eyes widened. No one else seemed to know what to do. Yet here was a being from another world acting with bravery and focus. She felt a pull inside her, a desire to move forward, to help, even though fear still gripped her. She hesitated near the edge of the corridor, watching as the human worked. A spark of determination lit in her heart. She had knowledge of the station's secret passages and systems, information that even some high-ranking officials lacked. For the first time, she considered using it, not for recognition, but to help. Her shyness battled with a new courage. The human, unaware of her presence, continued working tirelessly, his hands moving across panels, his mind clearly focused on solving the problem. Minutes passed like hours. The alarm blared and the station shook slightly from system overloads. The princess took a deep breath, feeling a strange resolve. She stepped forward, her feet moving almost of their own accord. She could not let him face this challenge alone. Quietly, she entered the control hub, approaching him cautiously. The human glanced at her, surprised but not startled. He smiled softly. "You came," he said simply, not with command or question, but as a statement of fact. The princess nodded, holding out her hands to indicate the secret control panels she knew could help stabilize the system. "These might help," she said softly. Together they worked. He guided her through the sequence of steps, and she added knowledge only her royal family possessed. The systems responded to their combined effort, and slowly, the alarms dimmed, the flashing lights softened, and the hum of stability returned. Around them, aliens stared in awe, some whispering, others silently impressed by the teamwork of two beings from different worlds. When the immediate danger passed, the human looked at her with admiration. "You were amazing," he said simply. The princess felt a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, someone truly saw her, not as a shy princess, not as a shadow, but as someone capable, intelligent, and brave. She smiled softly, a mixture of relief and happiness. I just wanted to help," she whispered. "That's all it takes sometimes," he replied gently. As the station returned to normal, the princess found herself thinking about the human. She realized that she wanted to know more about him, to understand his world, and perhaps to share a part of her own. Her shyness had not disappeared, but a new spark had been lit, a spark of curiosity, courage, and connection. And as she watched him walk away to continue his duties, she felt an unfamiliar but wonderful sense of hope. Perhaps being seen and understood was not as impossible as she had believed. Perhaps in the vastness of the stars, even the quietest individuals could shine. And so, the shy princess who had once been invisible began to step, ever so slightly out of the shadows, drawn by the simple courage of a human who had reached out and taken her hand. The space station was calmer now, though the echoes of the alarm still lingered in the halls. Red lights had faded to a soft glow, and the hum of machinery returned to its usual rhythm. Aliens who had panicked earlier now walked with more care, whispering among themselves about the strange teamwork they had witnessed. Among them, the shy princess and the human moved quietly, side by side toward the central control hub, where the real work still awaited. The human stopped briefly at a console, examining the panels carefully. "There's still a chance the system could fail if we don't stabilize it completely," he said, his voice steady. "It's not just the station at risk. The nearby planet's orbit is linked to these defense systems. If something goes wrong, the consequences could be serious." The princess nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the flickering lights. She stepped closer to the console, her fingers hovering over the buttons and switches that only someone of her royal knowledge could understand. "I know these systems. My family has been trained to operate and maintain them. I can help," she said softly, but with a quiet determination that surprised even herself. Together, they began. The human guided her through the sequence of checks and calibrations, explaining his reasoning and observing her responses carefully. She added insights he could not know, pointing out hidden modules and backup circuits. Their cooperation was seamless, like a dance choreographed by trust and shared purpose. Aliens passed by the control hub, slowing their pace to watch. Some whispered, "Is that the princess?" Others said, "She's working with the human?" Amazing. For the first time in her life, the princess felt noticed. Not for her title, not for her royal blood, but for her knowledge, her courage, and her willingness to act when others hesitated. Minutes stretched, but neither of them faltered. Sparks of energy from the malfunctioning circuits occasionally flashed across the panels, and the human's steady hands guided the princess as she rerouted power and stabilized the critical systems. Together, they corrected errors that could have caused catastrophic failures. At one point, a panel sparked violently, throwing a thin stream of light across the floor. The princess froze, but the human grabbed her hand and pulled her back gently. "Stay with me," he said calmly, his voice like an anchor in the storm. She took a deep breath, feeling her fear melt into trust. With his encouragement, she returned to her work, stronger and more confident than before. As they continued, the station began to stabilize. Lights returned to their normal glow. Alarms fell silent, and the hum of machinery settled into a steady rhythm. The human leaned back slightly, wiping a faint sheen of sweat from his brow. Though the princess noticed, he never seemed tired. His focus had been unwavering, his calm presence giving her courage. When the final panel blinked green, signaling full stabilization, the princess let out a breath she hadn't realized she had been holding. She looked at the human, her silver eyes shining with relief and something more, a newfound respect and admiration. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it," he replied, smiling. Together. There was a moment of quiet between them, a pause where the noise of the station seemed distant. In that instant, the princess realized something remarkable. She had always felt small, invisible, and overlooked, but working with him had shown her another truth. Courage and intelligence mattered more than appearances. Even the shyest or quietest could make a difference if they had trust, patience, and determination. Around them, aliens began to murmur and take notice. The princess, who had once been ignored, now stood as a symbol of skill and bravery. Some of the dignitaries approached, offering polite bows and respectful words. "Your knowledge saved the station," one said. Another nodded, adding, "I underestimated you." "My apologies." The princess felt a mixture of pride and humility. She did not seek attention, but she could not deny that it felt good to be recognized for her abilities. She glanced at the human, who smiled at her quietly. No words were needed. He understood her in a way no one else had. "Thank you," she said again, this time louder, more confident. "For trusting me." He shook his head. "I didn't just trust you. I wanted to work with you. You have knowledge and insight that no one else had, and that made all the difference." The princess felt a warmth in her chest, a happiness she had rarely experienced. She realized that connection was not about titles, power, or grandeur. It was about respect, trust, and understanding. Here was someone from another world who saw her as a person, not just as a princess, not just as a shadow among the light. They moved toward a quiet observation deck overlooking the planet below. The human leaned on the railing, and the princess joined him, her silver hair brushing lightly against her shoulders. The planet's surface shimmered beneath them, its forests, rivers, and cities glowing softly in the reflected light of the station. It was a breathtaking sight, but the princess barely noticed it at first. She was focused on the human beside her, realizing how much she wanted to learn from him, to share with him, to trust him even more. "I never thought I would feel so alive in a place like this," she admitted quietly. He smiled, turning to look at her. "Being alive isn't about the place. It's about the choices you make and the people you connect with. You stepped out of the shadows today. That makes all the difference." The princess felt her heart swell. For so long she had believed that being shy meant she had to stay invisible, that no one would ever notice her true self. But the human had shown her otherwise. Courage did not mean being loud or bold. Sometimes it meant acting quietly, intelligently, and with care. She hesitated for a moment, then reached out her hand toward him. I want to learn more from you," she said softly. The human took her hand gently, a warm and reassuring touch. "And I want to learn from you," he said. "There's so much we can understand together." They stood there, hands joined, looking out at the planet below. The station around them buzzed with life, but for a brief moment the princess felt calm, seen, and connected. It was a feeling she had never experienced before, and she knew it would change her forever. In the following days, their partnership grew. They worked together on various projects, combining human ingenuity with alien knowledge. The princess began to speak more confidently, sharing insights and ideas that amazed even the most experienced diplomats. The human listened carefully, respected her opinions, and offered guidance when needed. Other aliens who had once ignored her now observed with curiosity and respect. They saw her abilities, her intelligence, and her courage, and they began to treat her differently, not out of fear or obligation, but out of genuine admiration. The princess felt proud, not for the attention, but because she knew she had earned it through her actions. One evening, as they finished their work and prepared to leave the control hub, the human looked at her with a thoughtful expression. "You've changed the way I see your world," he said. "And you've changed the way I see myself," she replied. She realized that her shyness was no longer a limitation. With the right support and trust, she could step forward, make choices, and have an impact. As they walked through the corridors together, side by side, the princess felt a sense of hope. She knew challenges would come, that not everyone would understand her, and that the galaxy was full of dangers and surprises. But she also knew something else. She was no longer alone. A human from another world had reached out, taken her hand, and shown her that courage, trust, and connection could overcome fear and invisibility. The station hummed around them, but in that moment nothing else mattered. The shy alien princess, once ignored by everyone, had found someone who saw her for who she truly was. And together they faced the future, ready to explore the galaxy, solve challenges, and discover the boundless possibilities that awaited them. For the princess, life had changed in a simple yet profound way. She had stepped out of the shadows not because she wanted recognition, but because someone had believed in her. And in that belief she found strength, hope, and the promise of a new beginning. And so, under the glowing lights of the space station, with the planet below shining like a jewel, the princess and the human stood together, hands joined, eyes bright with curiosity and determination. They were ready for whatever the stars might bring. In that moment, the shy alien princess was no longer invisible. She was seen, she was valued, and she was free to shine.